Easy guys, welcome to part 2 of creating minimal drum and bass in the style of that 1985 overview deep dark sound. In the first part we covered drums and simple drum arrangement, so if you haven't checked that out I'll leave it in the description below. In this part we'll be covering bass and bass design. What I'm going to do is split into two halves. So this half will cover creating the basses, and then in the second half we'll cover arrangement and how you can create a cohesive narrative with those sounds. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to grab a fresh instance of Serum. All the bases that we'll be designing will be primarily using Serum. It's just what I'm comfortable with, but the stuff that we'll be covering could be easily applied to other synthesizers such as Vital or Faceplant, for example. I will try and keep everything within the box, within Serum. There might be a few instances where I use third-party plugins such as distortions and reverbs just to get a little bit more out of the sound, but the primary information will be all through Serum. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come into global first and change the quality to 4 times. I only recommend this if your computer can handle it, and it's not crucial, it just gets a little bit more out of the sound you're making. Okay, so I'm going to turn on the sub, -3 octaves, direct out, oscillator A, change to basic shapes, -3 octaves, and then come into the wavetable edit mode and remove these and remove the fundamental. The reason why I'm removing the fundamental is because that we've created a separate instance of the fundamental, which is the sub, and it just means that we can process and manipulate these harmonics separately to the sub because we want a clean mono sub. Okay, so just experiment with different harmonics. So basically what this is like, think of it as kind of like a frequency spectrum. Up here is the low end and then up here is the high end. So you know, okay, so let's start playing around with a few harmonics. Kind of like the first one. Cool. Oscillator B, get another basic shapes. Wavetable edit mode, remove that. I'm going to leave this, create another one, remove the fundamental, add a harmonic here, add another one, remove that harmonic, add another, something like that, and then without doing anything else we now have sort of 3 separate wavetables we can cycle through. Okay, so changes to like -2. That's some unison. Okay, cool. Some distortion. Some chorus. Okay. So now we can sort of shape the sound a little bit better now using LFOs. So we've got our kind of like our bass sound, and now we can sort of manipulate the characteristics of the sound using LFOs and FX. Okay, so let's get an LFO. Let's just place it on both levels. Turn on triplet and dotted just so you have a bit more of a range to play with. You can also turn off BPM and then have a sort of freehand. Cool. I'm gonna come into, in the previous part I covered that I had these 2 return tracks, one for drum reverb, one for bass reverb. It's basically just a Valhalla Supermassive with these macros. I've got an EQ on there just to make sure that I'm cutting out the lows, same with the sides, and then 2 compressors sidechain to the kick and snare, and then another EQ making sure that I'm cutting off the lows again, and then a utility just to make sure again that I'm cutting off the lows, just because you don't want any side information at all in the low end, otherwise it'll just become out of phase, too muddy, and there's a load of complications basically. So I'm going to add some reverb. There we go. And we basically have our first bass. You know, what I'm going to do is duplicate it, come into it and create a sort of variation, but try and change up the sound so that it's not too similar. Let's see what we can do. What's this one? Okay, so we can play around. What we can do as well is turn off the level, turn on FM. That's nice, so I'm just going to save that. Let me just group these quickly and hide this. Okay, so let's try and get some other sounds. What we could do is change the unison maybe. That's some noise. I like to play around with the Atmos in the noise. Let's do something different with the LFO shape. Cool. So there's three variations of that sound. Let's duplicate that one again. The Serum, change. Well, we'll go back to basic shapes, but get rid of the harmonics that we added, and then we can sort of remove that. FM. Maybe like do something like that. Duplicate that. Do as well is I don't really like using the Serum reverb, but in some instances you can do some kind of cool effects with it, kind of using some automation. Can you hear that? It's kind of like a little delay, washed out, you know. Pretty cool. Put that. Get a phaser. I like using a phaser sometimes because you can get some cool sounds out of it. Okay, so I'm going to use Thermal. If you haven't got Thermal, I highly recommend it. It's a distortion plugin, well, sound design plugin. It's like £5 a month on Splice, rent to own. So you pay £5 for like a year or two, and then it's yours forever. Highly recommend it. I pretty much use it on everything, and it's got a load of presets in it as well, so you don't have to mess around with kind of creating what you want. So let's go through. First off, quickly, before doing that, I'm going to add this sort of filter thing. It's basically separating the lows and mids so that we're able to process the mids separately to the low end at the sub. Like I said earlier, we want to have a clean mono sub, so that's why I'm doing this. So that's a really interesting sub. Sorry, stab bass. Let's go to OTT, grab an OTT. You can go crazy with the amount, but just subtle amounts will be fine. You don't really have to change any of the parameters. You just, that's really nice. Okay, so let's wait, which ones? Okay, so we got a load of cool stab basses there, and they could all be used within the track. You know, as the track progresses, you can implement them as the track goes along. You know, they're kind of like filler basses. But I think we could possibly use this as our main bass. And then these are kind of like filler variations. Okay, so let's move on to creating some subs, some harmonic subs. So a similar process. I mean, just going to quickly go through kind of like what I did initially. Like that. Basic shapes. Create our own sort of wavetable. Remove the fundamental. I'm going to add first harmonic. Come and create a duplicate of that wavetable, and then add a separate harmonic, just so that we have two separate instances of the harmonic. But we're going to come to morph. Have a little play around with the different morphs. I kind of use spectral more often, just because I prefer the sound that it comes out with, and what that does then is smoothly morphs into each of the wavetable. Let's bring this down. Add some unison. Add basic shapes, sine wave, subtle. FM. Cool. Bit of distortion. Chorus. Nice. Cool. So we have that set up, but We want to add some extra movement just to keep it interesting. Cool. I'm gonna grab those filters again. The distortion. I mean, we can use like overdrive maybe, just like I said, to try and keep everything within the box. You can use a saturator. Cool, that's one sub. I'm going to duplicate that, I'm going to get rid of these. Come into Serum. Remove this, because this could be a sub that we could just manually input the movement of the wavetable position to make it a little bit more human. But we can do that in the arrangement video. So I think how else I could do. Yeah, I mean, that sounds good to me. Okay, so we'll just keep that instance for a minute. Duplicate it again. Wrong one. Okay, so we can trial different wavetables. So we can do kind of something similar to kind of like what we did with the initial stab bass, is do like gradually coming down, create another instance, but then flip these two harmonics so that that's going gradually down, and then this one's taller than that one, more firm, spectral, or crossfade, experiment. And kind of like when you play with this, you can kind of like hear in your head kind of like an idea. Like for me, for example, with this bass, I kind of like, I already hear a track idea. You know? Maybe it just needs a bit more oomph. Yeah. Do as well is add some, I'm just going to duplicate this and then come back into it. You can start adding some cool sort of filter movements, maybe kind of like a such a nice sub. Some reverb. was giving it some nice movement. That's really nice. I really like that. Let's try some Atmos. Nice. Okay. This go back to some stab basses. Okay, so let me just get rid of these. We'll try and create something completely different, actually. Let's go to basic shapes again. Basic shapes. Let's try like a square wave. So add like a flat a phaser. Let's go move the fundamental. Nice. Okay. Cool. Chorus. Give a bit of reverb. A bit more reverb. You can also try the same trick with this. Do like that's pretty cool. I like that. Okay. So what have we got? Okay, so we've got a load of subs. And a load of stab basses. Nice. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to keep just designing sounds basically. kind of like my plan is like what I really recommend, okay, is before thinking like, oh, I'm gonna create this track, right? I would highly recommend opening up a fresh instance, a fresh scene. Okay, get a basic drum and bass drum loop or any drum loop, or create your own. Just create like an 8-bar loop, okay, and just create sounds. You know, just go crazy with sound design. Get used to just playing with loads of different things. I mean, treat it kind of like doodling. You know, because the idea out of this is that you want to try and eliminate kind of the sort of tedious workflow of grabbing a new instance of Serum, like going through all these different sounds, trying to find the right sound that you like, right? So if you spend like an hour or two a day just creating like a library of sounds, then you're able just to go into like the presets, save them as presets, obviously. So like, for example, you can come into any of these sounds, you know, save them. I'll call it like juice stab bass 01. Okay, so that's now saved. So when I come into a fresh instance of Serum, I can come here and know that these are all sounds that I know are nice. They work. They're interesting. You know, so I can come into the presets, try to find it. What did I call it? Stab bass 1. Juice stab bass. Okay. Was this it? No, that's minimal stab. Okay, you get the gist, right? So then you now have a sound that you know you like, you know it works, and then you can go into it and just sort of manipulate it differently to create a different sound, but still kind of have that this instance as kind of like your palette, right? So try and get rid of the LFO because it's the LFO that's creating those characteristics. It's more distortion. You know, try different. Actually, we could try reverb. This needs reverb. There we go. I've got a brand new sound that I made just from past presets, basically. So yeah, I highly recommend just going in and just going crazy with designing sounds. You know, you don't have to like them. Just get used to just creating music, creating basses and different sounds, you know. Okay, so let's just keep going with creating sounds. I don't know how long I'm going to do this for. I think I'll just do a load until we have enough to sort of play around with in the next video, where we will arrange them. Okay, so new instance, get rid of these. Serum. I don't know what can we make. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going with a couple of more. We'll do a couple of more subs and a couple of more stabby basses, and then I'll call it a day. But let's do a couple more subs. Okay, so basic shapes, -3, sub -3, direct out, same sort of process. I know I'm sort of contradicting myself right now because I'm creating the same patches as I was earlier, so I could have just easily done that, but just for educational sake, let's do something like, what should we go for? Let's do, what do I think? No, let's go for the bog standard. Morph, spectral, unison. Add an LFO. Sub as well. Oscillator, B, basic shapes, sort of same scenario. Let's do kind of like, do FM. Okay. What you can also do is create some a separate movement on some of the LFO parameters. So let's do like something like that. Add it to the wavetable. Maybe like. Add an LFO filter. Cool. That's some distortion. Of course, another sub. Duplicate this. Put up. Let's do something different now. I'm just gonna initiate. Let's try some digital. Let's go for add seconds. I'll do the same again. Add seconds. Let's do the unison. Put this quite high. Change this. So with these wavetables, it's pretty much what we did initially by editing the wavetable position to have kind of like one harmonic. So if you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So let's go kind of like, nope, that's -3. Hang on a minute. Give it EQ. Let's play this up. So, okay. What I'm gonna do is get rid of this EQ. Get this thing that I've got. It's basically kind of like a parallel filter, separating the lows from the mids. So then what I can do is delete the lows, duplicate this. Oh no, hang on. Duplicate this. Get rid of the mids. Get rid of the lows. So then we can have a clean sub. So turn these off. There we go. So now we can process this. Okay. Right. Let's get an LFO. Try and do this QuickTime to try and get more. Do like bright white. That's quite nice. Nice. Maybe try add a distortion. Cool, that's another sub. What I'm going to do is quickly just create a sub stab bass kind of like out of that, and further prove kind of like you can do so much more with a sound that you like. Okay, so let's do kind of like. To this. I mean, that needs some fine tuning, but yeah, I mean, it's usable. Oh, cool. I think we've covered quite a lot here. I mean, let's go through them again. I really like that sub. Okay, so quite a lot of stab basses, quite a few subs. But yeah, all the fundamentals, I've covered pretty much all the fundamentals of where you can get started creating these sort of sounds. You know, they're not complex at all. You know, they are mostly just distorted sine waves with one oscillator, maybe two oscillators, you know, and manipulate those sort of characteristics with LFOs and effects, you know. We can definitely get way more in depth with the design process of these by using sort of other plugins, like Thermal, for example. We can even do kind of like granular synthesis and stuff like that, but maybe that's a separate video for in the future. So in conclusion, I basically covered the fundamentals of how you can get to those sort of harmonic subs and stabby basses. You can definitely go way more in depth, like I said earlier, with these sounds by adding other plugins and stuff. Just have a little play around, you know. Don't be scared with designing, you know. It is daunting that to start with, because you may start with sounds that you don't like, but just shape and trial and error with different things, you know, and save them. Definitely save your presets. So like I said at the start of the video, we are going to split this sort of video into two halves. So this half was creating the basses, and then the second half is going to be arranging those to make a cohesive narrative. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick these sounds up on a shop where you can grab for a small fee, and I'll throw in some extra freebies in there for you as well. If you enjoyed the video and want to see the next part, then make sure to subscribe and leave a like if you like the content, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.